in spite of the fact that this weekend, wasn't necessarily the most star-studded weekend for boxing, there was still boxing to be had, and I decided to peep out some of the shows, and so talk about trying to do a recap of the whole night, starting with probably the most shocking of the bunch, the most fun of the bunch, most certainly the best fight of the bunch, and probably the biggest implications with Cesar Juarez pulling off a little bit of an upset over Prince Albert Pagara. Albert Pagara was pretty much looking like he was going to be on the precipice of getting a world title shot at super bantamweight, looking like he was going to potentially be a uprising star at super bantamweight, potentially go, leapfrogging from here into a title because Cesar Juarez, as many of you may remember, he gave Nonito Donaire one of the fights of the year last year. Very tough fight where it looked like Donaire may have been close to folding a couple of times, managed to pull off a close unanimous decision. But here against Pagara, he managed to pull off a little bit of an upset after having just been upset in the fight between these two fights. Fought a guy, Delgado was his name, lost a close split decision to him. Delgado had previously lost a couple of fights to Jojo Diaz and Diego de la Hoya, so he was a little bit of a journeyman. Um, wasn't a guy that get blown out though, and he proved to be a kind of a tough, short notice type of opponent for Juarez. Um, Juarez, however, proved to be the exact same thing for Albert Pagara and then some. Albert Pagara managed to drop Juarez early in the first round. Well, actually, at the end of the first round, really, early in the fight. Clean left hook with Juarez trying to come in swinging over the top. Dropped him at the end of the round. Juarez managed to recover, had the whole minute. Next round, Juarez came at him just like a bull, like as though it's like he had tasted Pagara's power and he wasn't necessarily afraid of it or shook of it, and he felt like he could bull forward and take it regardless of whoever was throwing the punches. I mean, you got to remember this is a guy who took some straight up head snappers from Donaire and kept going at Donaire and managed to hurt Donaire repeatedly as he followed Donaire around the ring. Here against Pagara, though, I thought he did a much better job at going to the body, mixing up body to the head. But he would start to the body, he stayed there, and then he would only go up to the head once he realized that Pagara was a sitting duck. And that mainly happened when he was able to get Pagara either up against the ropes or when he was able to kind of goad Pagara into trading with him at ring center, up and close, because Pagara felt like he had the hand speed advantage and he had the power advantage upstairs. So he was thinking that he was going to probably be able to knock Juarez out should he be able to catch him in an exchange. In a way, this fight kind of wound up reminding me of Amir Imam versus Adrian Granados, where Imam caught Granados early, had probably a little bit too much confidence in his power, wound up paying for it by standing in the pocket a little too much, which is basically what happened with Pagara. Managed to have good success probably through about round 3, but from round 3 to 7, Juarez pretty much took over, controlled the pace of the fight, controlled the distance of the fight, controlled um, the location of the fight, ring generalship. He was just pounding on Pagara, and Pagara was really just trying to land shots mostly to keep Juarez off him, as opposed to necessarily really doing damage of his own right. I mean, of course, he was trying to catch Juarez coming in, but it wasn't. It just his punches didn't have the same effect after a few rounds as they had in the first, whereas Juarez's punches were having more of an effect as the rounds pressed on. So going on through 7, in the 7th round, Juarez hurt Pagata very, very badly. Had very wobbly at the end of the round. And at the very beginning of the 8th round, he pretty much just cleaned Pagata up. Came at him with full force, throwing heavy punches, trying to test and see if Pagata's legs were still under him. And they basically weren't. He dropped him flat on his back. Pagata tried to get up, almost fell on his face, but his entire body was just wobbly. He was like trying desperately, almost like in a frog position, just trying to like prop himself up. Wasn't able to get up in time. The ref had no choice but to stop it with the full count of 10. And Cesar Juarez pulled off a little bit of a shocking upset to a certain degree. Shouldn't necessarily come as an immense surprise to a lot of people, though, considering the fact that Prince Albert Pagara had been like stepping up pretty fast. He's a young guy. He's 22 years old. So to step him up against the guy that had given, a top flight, still elite, level type of a fighter like Donaire, as much trouble as he did last year, almost stopping Donaire, it would seem a couple of times, it wound up turning out pretty bad for Pagara, as he basically wound up being the pipe in the pressure bust pipes equation here. But his younger brother, or his older brother rather, Jason El Nino Pagara, managed to win a big third round knockout over Abraham Alvarez. Pretty much was able to outbox him, keep him at the proper distance in order to get his power shots off. Whereas Albert Pagara is a super bantamweight, Jason Pagara is a welterweight, so he may get a little bit more play, a little bit more widespread shine here in the United States against some of the welterweight prospects as he tries to make his way towards title contention. Took care of Juarez pretty easily. Got a third round knockout, and he improved to 39-2 with 24 knockouts. He has a couple of losses, from the past, as he incidentally kind of got stepped up pretty fast when he was around his younger brother's age. But he kept up his winning ways. Other than that, there was a few other fights. There was the let me think here. There was the Telefutura fights, or Unimas fights rather. Jose Ramirez, U.S. Olympian. This was the top-ranked card. Jose Ramirez pulling off a fourth-round TKO over Tomas Mendez. To a certain degree, a bit of a stay-busy fight. Ramirez still trying to get another high-level fight, possibly on one of these big top-ranked undercards, whether it's a undercard of Gilberto Ramirez or possibly Estrada's U.S. debut, potentially in the future. Kept up his winning ways, so props to him. And then we also had the PBC card, Mario Barrios versus Devis Bochero. And Mario Barrios pretty much proved why he's one of the higher-ranking prospects at the moment, mainly at a super featherweight at 130 pounds. Very tall guy. I think he's about 6'1", if not a little bit taller. Just a bit of a freak show at the division. A freakish build for the division. A guy that most certainly is probably going to wind up, at lightweight, super welter, or not super welter, lightweight and light welter probably in the future, if not welter. Considering his height and his frame. A little bit of that Tommy Hearns-esque frame. Went in there, pretty much took care of business. Wasn't the most exciting fight between these two as compared to the fights I previously mentioned. But, he pretty much outboxed Bochero for the most part. And then finally he dropped him around 12. Looked like he was going to try and put the cap on it, put the exclamation point on a dominant performance with a 12th round knockout. But he wasn't able to finish Bochero off. Got the 12-round unanimous decision. Very dominant. Won basically every round. And then, of course, the extra point for the knockdown. And then Eddie Ramirez versus Jesse Roman was on the undercard. Solid fight overall. To basically start off the card. Give me a second here. Eddie Ramirez managed to get a unanimous decision over Jesse Roman. Basically improved to 13-0, or 14-0 rather, with 9 knockouts. The guy a little bit on the come up, another guy that's at 140 pounds, and or 140 to 147. This was the catch weight, it looks like, and Ramirez, took care of business. Pretty much dominant decision, outboxed Jesse Roman. Looked like he was close to stopping him a couple of times late there. I remember in the 7th and the 8th round, it looked like Roman was starting to give a good bit, but he managed to survive. Ramirez improved. And that's pretty much the major fights for this Saturday. In spite of the fact that there wasn't necessarily a lot of star-studded talent, at least not until Monday with Sergey Kovalev facing off against Isaac Chilemba, still plenty of great boxing to be had, especially with regard to up-and-coming prospects and guys on the rise that we'll probably be seeing in title shots in the next maybe year and a half to 2 years. So that's it for this one, and I'll catch you guys on the next. Peace.